own spirit move through us, and we claim that it's the Ruach HaKodesh. And this is the noise that it makes when it's just our breath. Nothing but just a hiss, a disgusting hiss, a bunch of hot air. But when we let the Ruach HaKodesh move through us and blow through us, it creates a beautiful sound that demands attention to say, hey, where's that noise coming from? Hey, what does that mean? Ah! Hallelujah! And that's what it is. So you have two voices out there. You have the voice of the rabbis and sages of blessed memory, peace be upon them, who are speaking by the unction of the Ruach HaKodesh as a shofar, and is proclaiming Rosh HaShannah, Yom Teruah as a new year. Yet you have other men who claim to be of God who says, Rosh HaShannah is not a new year, Passover is a new year. So I'm going to take a brief 5 minutes, if you'll allow me, to explain why Rosh HaShannah, why Yom Teruah is considered a new year. In fact, according to the rabbis and sages of blessed memory, there are actually 4 Hebraic New Years. It may sound strange to you, but all you have to do is look at the secular calendar, and the secular calendar will say the same thing. No, how can you say that, Rabbi Yehuda? The secular calendar, it's January to December. That's the secular calendar. There's no multiple New Years in the secular calendar. Oh, yes, there is. There's the New Year on January 1st. That's a new year. All businesses, all Fortune 500, Fortune 100 businesses have a new year, and it's not January 1st. It's sometime, I think, in the fall, but they call it a fiscal year. And it's where they begin and conclude their business. They manage all their business deals, and all their financial records are taking place in that fiscal year, and it's not January 1st. So there's 2 New Years already. There's a 3rd New Year. The people have a new year of taxes. In the United States, it's April 15th. April 15th inaugurates a new year, a new tax year. So here we have 3 New Years on the secular calendar. There's another new year. There's a school year. The school year starts in the fall, and it ends in the summer. And once fall begins again, you go back to school. So school doesn't start on January 1st. School starts in the fall. So there's a 4th New Year, the new year for school, the new year for education, the tax new year, the business new year, or also the fiscal new year, and the secular new year, which is January to December. Now, on the Hebrew calendar, it's very similar. Yes, the Torah does say that the first of Aviv, the Aviv of Passover, when Passover comes around, which is actually, Passover is the 1st of Nisan. The 1st of Nisan, Yahweh said, proclaim this as the beginning of your months, as the beginning of your calendar. And so you have a lot of people say, see, that's the real New Year. And they call it a New Year, and when we say Rosh HaShannah is the New Year, they say, no, that's just a rabbinic tradition. But hear me out. The 1st of Nisan is a spiritual New Year. It goes into Pesach, Passover. And Passover is declared a spiritual new year because it is when that Israel came out of Mitzrayim, came out of the bondage of Egypt, and therefore they were declared as a people, as a nation, and the symbolicness of coming out of Egypt is one coming out of sin. So it is a spiritual new year. Why is it a spiritual new year? Because that is when Yahweh revealed himself to the people of Israel, not just as Elohim, not just by Adonai, not just by El Shaddai. He proclaimed himself to the people. They will now know me now by my personal name. He said they will know me now as Yahweh. And so it is a spiritual new year. So yes, the 1st of Nisan, Passover, is a new year. But there's 3 other New Years. There's 3 other New Years on the Hebraic calendar. Now, which is Rosh HaShannah, what we are celebrating now. We are calling this a new year as well. So if there's 4 New Years on the secular calendar, and there's 4 New Years on the Hebraic calendar, there can't be a contradiction. You can have more than 1 New Year. So Rosh HaShannah, the 1st of Tishri, is Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets. But it is also more well known as Rosh HaShannah, the New Year. Why is it called a New Year? Because it is a civil or fiscal New Year on the Hebraic calendar. It was the 1st of Tishri. It's the anniversary of creation. It's the calculating of the reign of secular kings. It's the calculating of the sabbatical and the year of Jubilee. It is the time when all the books in heaven are opened for accounting. And this is also the symbolic of around the time when Mashiach is going to return because of the last blast of the shofar. So many new things happened on Rosh Hashanah. Not only that, but we celebrate the binding of Isaac. The Akedah is also remembered at this time. So many new things happened on Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, it too is a new year. It is a spiritual new year. So you have Nisan, which is a spiritual new year. And that we lead into Passover with that. 2, you have Rosh HaShannah, Yom Teruah, which is a civil or fiscal new year on the Hebraic calendar. Then there's 2 other New Years, and I'll briefly go over those because they're not so well known. But you have the 15th of Shevat, which is a new year for trees. It is an agricultural new year. It is sort of like the Jewish Arbor Day, but it inaugurates a new year for trees. And so let me just read to you this commentary. It says, most Jewish sources consider the 15th of Shevat as a new year for both designating the fruits that is forbidden to eat because they have grown during the first 3 years after the tree's planting, and for the separating of fruits for the tithing. This date was selected because most of the winter rains are over, according to the Talmud, Rosh HaShannah 14a. The sap has begun to rise, and the fruit has started to ripen. Fruits that have just begun to ripen from the blossoming stage up to 1/3 of the full